Welcome, everyone, to the NoDQ.com live recap of TNA Impact. What? That's right. I am recapping TNA Impact for January 15th, 2026, the AMC premiere. I did get the AMC Plus app to watch the show live. Let's talk about it. It's the first full TNA show I've watched other than Bound for Glory 2024. I was at that show in Detroit. This is the first televised TNA show I have watched in a very long time. I'll give you my thoughts. Let's break it down. We opened up with a dramatic video package. TNA overcomes all the odds, blah, blah, blah. TNA in Dallas, Texas. Looks like they had a pretty good turnout, maybe 3,000 fans or so, which for TNA is a decent number, although some might say it's disappointing for their AMC premiere with all the WWE help and the partnership and everything. We opened up the show with WWE's own AJ Styles, who, of course, one of the top stars in the history of TNA, going back to the beginning of the company. He was there since the weekly pay-per-views. We had an instant production glitch. The graphic appeared on the screen, but there was no music. And it was like this for 10 seconds or so. And then finally, AJ Styles came out there and the music played, his old classic classic TNA theme song. Styles came to the ring and he cut a promo. Not much to say. It was very basic. He just welcomed everyone to the house that AJ Styles built. And he said that TNA is bigger and bolder than ever on AMC. He got the fans to chant TNA, and that was that. We had our opening video, and the announcers, Tom Phillips, I believe, said that it's the biggest night in TNA history, which it's their biggest night in a while. I don't know if it's their biggest night of all time. I think their biggest night of all time was probably that first show with the Hulk Hogan era, or maybe the Spike TV debut. I don't know. I'm not sure I would go that far, but certainly their biggest show in a while. Shout out to Dave Scheffler. Dave, I will get to your super chat at the end because I do have a lot to say about what you sent, so stay tuned. We opened up the show with former WWE stars, and I get it. You want to hook in viewers right away with familiar faces. I think it's a good idea, but at the same time, I might have done it differently. I think for people tuning in, not watching TNA in a long time, or maybe never watching TNA, but we're curious, you want to hook them with something they're going to be seeing that will make them fans. And I'm not sure having former WWE stars past their peak in the opening match is going to hook these people as regular viewers. I don't know if it was actually the right move or not. You had Elijah. Who wants to walk with Elijah? And the Hardy Boys. The Hardys are great, all-time legends, but let's face it, their best years are in the past. They had a live guitar player out there, and then they faced the Order 4, which is Mustafa Ali's faction. He teamed up with these two guys, don't know who they are, and then they have a female there at the ringside area with them. Now, everybody started fighting right off the bat. Elijah ended up superplexing Ali off the back of one of the Order 4 guys, and then the baby faces cleared the ring. After the commercial break, heels took control for a while. Then Jeff Hardy came in, and I believe her name is Tasha Steelz. She got in the ring, and she ended up being taken out by Matt Hardy, and things broke down. Matt hit the twist of fate. Jeff Hardy came off the top with the Swanton and got the win. It was a very basic match. There really wasn't much to it. It was just a standard TV match. And I really think that TNA needed to have a great match, a banger to open up this show, to really set the tone and let people know what they're in store for. I just think that this was a little underwhelming for the first match of the show, even though you had the former WWE stars in it. Even with Ali in there, it didn't really feel like anything special. And Ali against the right guy could have been an absolute banger. So we had a post-match attack from another guy in Ali's group. So even though they're the order 4, they have 5 guys. I don't know. I don't watch. But there's a guy called Agent Zero who wears a suit, and he got involved. And then the Righteous came down. Now, the Righteous, I remember them from AEW. They came out there. They attacked the Hardys, and they did the routine with Jeff's ear where they restrained Jeff with a chain by using a lock and putting the lock in Jeff's ear so he could not break free to save his brother as they beat him down. The beatdown wasn't anything crazy, though. Like, they should have really done a lot of damage, but then, of course, they don't want to jeopardize their tag team title match, which is coming up at this Genesis pay-per-view. We had a backstage promo from the world champion, Frankie Kazarian. He called, so they were really trying to hammer that point home. AJ Styles confronted him backstage. Now, this might have been an audio problem. I'm not sure what the deal was, but we should have been able to hear the crowd, because I think if AJ went back there and the crowd was watching this, they would pop big and you would have that reaction. But it was just silence. And then we heard the crowd a little bit. So it might have just been more production issues from TNA. They had a little stare down, and Kazarian was getting mad and saying that AJ should thank him for the house. And then Styles said, thanks. And as he was saying this, he looked down at Frankie Kazarian's title, which certainly seemed to be a little teaser for the future. Will AJ Styles wrestle one more match in TNA before he retires from wrestling? That remains to be seen. We had a little X Division video package, and then we had footage shown of all these so-called celebrities at ringside, and I didn't know who any of them were, so that was one problem. But the bigger problem was all of these empty seats. Like, it showed that half the arena was empty. And WWE would never do this, and I don't even think AEW would do this. Who thought this out and put these guys in this spot and shot it from this angle? Because you could just see tons of empty seats behind all these social media influencers or whatever they were called. And we did have some wrestlers there too. I believe Candice Michelle was there randomly. And then we had Ryan Nemeth, Dolph Ziggler's brother, coming out there and crashing the segment. And he ended up being chopped by one of the guys and crotched himself on the barricade. It was bad. This was a bad segment, but thankfully it was relatively quick. But I think it was a damaging segment showing all of the empty seats. And shout out to City by the Bay. I will get to your super chat at the end, just because I want to sum up all my thoughts while referencing the super chats. So stay tuned for that. We had a Santino Marella promo in the ring. So we went from one match, and then we had footage of celebrities, and then we had another promo. The total nonstop action has officially stopped. That was a sign that was held up during the Asylum years, the weekly pay-per-views, whenever there would be a Vince Russo skit or something that had nothing to do with the actual in-ring stuff. somebody would hold up that sign. So that's basically what we got here. Santino said that this is going to be something incredible. And he said it's so hectic for him. He can't do it alone. So he brought out the debuting Sonia Deville, former WWE star who is now known as Daria Ray. She's the Suit. She came out there. She put over Santino and even called him a pillar of TNA. But then she turned heel on him. She said that TNA doesn't need him. They need structure. And even his own daughter, Ariana, doesn't even respect him. She said that she can do his job better than him. And she was yelling at the people, telling them to shut up when she talks. And she revealed that she signed a new knockout to TNA, the former Cora Jade, who I believe made a few appearances as part of the crossover, but she's officially part of TNA Wrestling. So we'll see where that goes. But the segment itself was a little cringy. I have to say, not the best work from Sonia Deville. She's out there screaming, and it came off like bad community theater. That's my take on it. I didn't think it was a particularly good segment to introduce her. And yeah, the whole heel turn thing sure makes Santino look like an idiot. Although I don't think people ever accused him of being smart, at least the character. We had AJ Styles backstage chatting it up with the number one contender, Mike Santana. And Styles said that even though he knew Kazarian for 20 years, he wants to see Santana kick Kazarian's ass. Santana thanked AJ Styles and they embraced. So we got another AJ Styles segment. We got him a few times on the show. I guess that's a positive. And then things really fell off a cliff, man. We had the Elegance brand with Perez Hilton. And they were talking and they introduced Mr. Elegance. And he was cutting this promo. And this felt like the most low-rent indie wrestling segment I've ever seen. It was bad. It was change the channel, turn off the TV, go away heat. Whoever thought this was a good idea should probably not be working in creative in TNA wrestling. That's all I gotta say. We had a match for the TNA Women's Knockouts titles. We had the Inspiration against Heather by Elegance and M by Elegance, which don't know why they can't come up with better names, but that's what they got. And I wish I could tell you guys about the match, but I wasn't able to see it. You know why? Because we had a commercial break with like 7 or 8 commercials. We came back. There was like 10 seconds of wrestling, and then we had more commercials. I'm on the AMC Plus app watching it live on AMC. Apparently, some people on like YouTube TV were not getting all these commercials like I was. But I saw like 5 minutes of commercials, and then when we finally came back, match was over. You had the Elegance brand celebrating in the ring, and apparently they won the TNA Knockouts titles. Apparently the Inspiration are done with TNA, so this was writing them out of the storylines, and I didn't even see the match. LOL TNA, a classic phrase from many years ago when people actually cared about TNA. Wow, this was a complete disaster. I mean, I'm guessing some people saw the match, whether it was YouTube TV or traditional cable, but if you got the AMC Plus app with the intentions of watching TNA Impact, well, you didn't get to see a whole lot. And this was throughout the whole show, too. We had another backstage segment with Ariana Grace Santino's daughter. I'm not even sure what her name is. And Stacks, I believe. They're feuding. Santino and his daughter are feuding. Don't really care. I barely watch NXT these days anyway, so I don't really know what's going on with these two. I guess Santino's a deadbeat dad, just like Rey Mysterio. We had Indy Hartwell backstage, confronted by the Elegance brand. Don't really care. The Elegance brand is terrible, by the way. Awful gimmick and faction. I have no desire to see it. We then had another promo. We had Santino Marella in the ring, bringing out the former Xia Li, Li Ying Li something, not sure her name, what her name is now, but she is the Knockouts champion. I keep saying AEW because I recap AEW every week. Apparently, she had to have a new opponent because of visa issues, and there were several people that were not able to make the show. If there's any defense for TNA, it's that they did have a legitimate issue with the visas of several wrestlers that were not able to appear on the show. And again, pretty low rent, if you ask me. Kind of a disaster when several of your people don't show up, and TNA had to make last-minute changes for their big AMC premiere. Leave it to WWE, though, the great partners, to come to the rescue, because we had Sol Ruca and Zarya showing up. Sol Ruca should really be nowhere near TNA at this point, I have to say. Like, you're building her up as one of your future top stars. She shouldn't be anywhere near TNA. Zarya too, for that matter. So they come out there, and Sol Ruca cuts a promo, and she has Zarya accept the open challenge for the Genesis pay-per-view, and Zarya signed the contract, and it is official. Then we had footage shown of Santino Marella meeting with Cedric Alexander, more promos and skits. And apparently Leon Slater unable to make the show because of a visa issue. So they had to change things up with that. And it's going to be a three-way at Genesis. Cedric Alexander versus Moose versus the man you say his name and he appears, Joe Hendry, and he even appeared via the cell phone ringtone. So they got that. TNA can thank WWE for saving Genesis. I will say that. And people are bringing up how Slater was on the UK tour with WWE. I mean, Leon Slater is going to be in WWE pretty much the same way as Joe Hendry is. We had another promo, this time with the System. Not System of a Down, but just the System. What's up with these names? Where do they come up with these names? You got what was the name of Ali's group? The Order 4, the System. These are terrible names. The Elegance brand. They need to come up with some better ideas for these faction names. Anyways, the System cut a promo, and Eddie Edwards is like Kelly, but he's Eddie Edwards. And Fandango, yes, Fandango is still wrestling, and they're going to have a match at Genesis, and it's going to be Fandango's last match, apparently. Fandango, or Dirty Dango, whatever the hell his name is now. And he's going to announce a new member, a replacement for the System on next week's show. Maybe he's going to get one of the System of a Down members to join the group. Darren's a big wrestling fan, so you could go with that. And that's the hook for next week. They're going to have a new member of the System. Tune in next week to TNA Impact to see the newest member of the System. How exciting. And Fandango, Johnny Curtis, Dirty Dongo said he loves Eddie Edwards like a brother, but he's not going to go out like a punk. Well, then, they got that match. You can tune in for Genesis to see if Fandango is going to go out like a punk or not. You have to buy the pay-per-view, $40, please. Kind of a bad segment, in my opinion, but hey, they tried. Then we had Carlos Silva introducing Dixie Carter. Yes, they brought out Dixie Carter, and she didn't even get the nostalgia pop. They booed her ass. She talked on the microphone. She said how proud she is of TNA for surviving her nearly killing the company with all the bad decisions. And she got booed out of the building. Not even a nostalgia pop for Dixie Carter. Then Bully Ray came out with a little throwback to when Bully Ray put her through the table. And I think that's when they wrote her off television. And that was the end of Dixie Carter. But Dixie and Bully hugged. And then Bully came to the ring for the main event, which was the TNA World Championship match. Frankie Kazarian defending against Mike Santana. These guys had their working shoes on. They were doing their damnedest to save the show. They were having a really good match, but then we cut away to more commercials. We had commercials. We missed the intros. This is your big world title match, and we didn't even get to see the introductions. We came back from commercials. They started wrestling, and what we could see was really good. This was classic TNA. This is what the whole show should have been. They should have been having these guys going out there and putting on these great matches and showing the world that they are at the level of WWE and AEW. But instead, we had this match, and then we had a bunch of lackluster stuff. Skits, commercials, bad promos, former WWE guys having a passable match, commercials, and then we had the main event. Back and forth, really good stuff here. They did a lot of cool stuff. The Spanish Fly, the Code Red from Santana, and then Kazarian did the Angel's Wings in tribute to his former partner, Christopher Daniels. He did the slingshot cutter, slingshot leg drop, but then he couldn't get the job done. So he brought the championship into the ring. The referee took it away, and then they traded shots, and the referee got knocked down. So you can't have a TNA main event. Going back to the Jeff Jarrett era, you cannot have a TNA main event without a ref bump. They just couldn't help themselves. They couldn't just do a clean match with these guys. Then Santana hits his finisher, the spin the block. It's like basically just a clothesline. Referee was out of it though. And then Kaz used the title. Referee recovered. Santana though kicked out. And then Kazarian went for a Canadian Destroyer, which Santana just no-sold, hit him with the lariat, the spin, what is it called? Spin the block. Hit him with the spin the block, and the referee counted 3. But Kazarian kicked out, and this should have been the finish. I don't know if it was, and they screwed up and they kept going, but the crowd was at its absolute noise level peak for this. And then we had the ref counting 3, but Kazarian kicked out and the match continued. And then Kaz went for the spin the block, which every time the heel goes for the babyface's finisher, it doesn't work. And that's the end. And sure enough, Santana ducked it and then hit another one. And finally got the 1-2-3 victory. And the crowd did pop, but they missed the peak. The popping up from the Canadian Destroyer and hitting it it was a little underwhelming at the end. But all in all, it was the right call for Santana to win. The finish did bring it down a little bit. And then I think the fact that there were so many commercials during this, and also the ref bump, which was unnecessary, brought it down a little bit. But all in all, it was a pretty good match. And I think this would have been a much better TNA show if the guys were able to go out there and cook like these guys were doing when they had the opportunity. Santana and Kazarian, shout out to those guys. They stole the show, but I don't think it was enough to save me as a viewer. So let's get to the super chats. First up, Dave Scheffler sent in $5. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it. Dave says, great show if you like a little wrestling with your commercials. Very true. What a mess. When best part is the old TNA highlights, don't blame you if it's a one and done. The commercials really hurt this show a lot. And I don't know if that's a TNA problem or an AMC problem or both, miscommunication, but it was a complete disaster for people watching on the AMC Plus app. But the actual content of the show, for the most part, was lackluster too. So, yeah, I'm afraid to say I'm thinking this is a one and done for me. I've already canceled the AMC Plus. I subscribed to it, paid the $7, and I'm tapping out. I gave TNA a shot, and unfortunately, I think they blew it. I think they swung and they struck out. Shout out to City by the Bay, who sent in $2. Thank you for that. Says, not sure TNA did enough to make me tune in again. Same. There's just so much content out there. TNA, this was like, you know how people and companies get second chances? This was like TNA's 10th second chance. I tuned in, I gave it a shot, and they just did not hook me. What would I have done differently? I would have lived up to the moniker, total nonstop action. Have your best guys go out there and have the best matches possible, minimal commercials, and show the critics that TNA is as good or even better than WWE or AEW when it comes to the in-ring product. They can't match WWE's production values. That's for damn sure. They can't match AEW in the ring, although they have some really talented guys. But what they put out there, all the promos, all the community theater, having the former WWE guys go out there and just have a run-of-the-mill match, it wasn't what I would have done. I would have gone out there right out of the gate with a great match that had the crowd on their feet, going crazy, tearing the house down, and world title match, I would have had no BS. Just have Mike Santana win. You don't need the stupid referee bump, and just play it straight and hook those viewers. Shout out to Caleb Jacobs, who sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, did Dixie Carter book this? I don't think so, but whoever did, I question how much knowledge of wrestling they have, because I feel like they did repeat a lot of TNA's prior mistakes. The last thing you want to do is remind people of all the bad things that TNA did. And I feel like this show was just too low rent and not thought out well enough. Did they really think Dixie going out there would get a pop? I mean, that's another thing too. I'm wondering what they were thinking with that one. But no, Dixie, I don't believe booked this show. All right, here's another comment. Javante Morant, 4701. Thank you for the super chat. I very much appreciate it. Says, as talented as that roster is, TNA needs just that one major signing, like how Kurt Angle debuted in 2006, a huge name at their peak from AEW or WWE. Well, I think that would have helped, but at the end of the day, it's your creative team, it's your production, and it's your roster. They have a pretty solid roster, but where was Dolph Ziggler Nick Nemeth on this show. You would think he'd be out there. He just signed a contract with TNA. They put out a press release, and he wasn't even on the show. Where was he? Like, they could have showcased their best guys on this. And yeah, maybe a big surprise, but I think people were maybe going a little bit into fantasy mode too much when they were thinking, oh, maybe Chris Jericho will show up. After this, I don't think Jericho's touching TNA with a 10-foot pole. I really don't. They can't really afford to compete with either WWE or AEW. WWE's got the TKO money, just can't compete. And Tony Khan's a billionaire, so they can't do it. It's going to be unlikely unless somebody is completely disgruntled with both companies and decides to give TNA a shot. That's the only way something like that's going to happen. Shout out to Jeremy Dorset, who sent in $5. Thank you, Jeremy. I appreciate it. Jeremy says, I have the same issues on the AMC channel, and I have Spectrum cable, too many commercials and not enough wrestling. Yeah, that second hour especially. Again, maybe it was the visa issues, the fact that so many people were not there and they had to fill time, and that's why we got the commercials. I don't know what went wrong here other than miscommunication and bad production, a combination of that. But yeah, it was not good, and I feel like people are not going to tune in after this. They had their shot. You only get one shot. Don't miss your chance. And they missed it. Jeremy sent in another $5 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, how much longer will Anthem continue to own TNA and then sell to WWE and move on to something else? I'm not going to predict on that. First of all, I don't want to see people lose their jobs. But of course, we all feel like one of these days, the end goal for WWE will be to buy TNA. TNA seems to live forever. Like they've always overcome the odds, and they always have to state it in their promos. We survive. We keep thriving. Every time they think we're down, we keep coming back. You know, that's their motto. Every promo, every dramatic video package, they have to say that we're still fighting. We're still here. So that's kind of what they go by. And I really think they need to move away from that. Like they need to just have entertaining stories when your main hook for the show is we're still here. We're still thriving despite what everybody said. Like it's old. They need to just drop that, in my opinion. They should have dropped it a long time ago. So I'm not going to predict that. I mean, who knows? They might outlive all of us. TNA might outlive every single person watching this right now, even the kids. Shout out to Dwayne Atkinson, who sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, with Feaster fired coming back, who's leaving? I don't know, and I do not care. I was never a fan of that stipulation. I always thought it was stupid. If you're a company, why would you fire one of your contracted wrestlers and put it in a stipulation? Like, they're real estate. Every wrestler is valuable. So why would you just fire somebody who is... You sign them, so you think they have something. Why would you fire them in a stipulation? I just think the concept is stupid. I don't like it. Never been a fan of Feaster fired way back to the early days of TNA. Never liked it. Don't care about it. All right, got this one here from Jeremy Dorset. Thank you, Jeremy, for the $5 super chat. I appreciate it. Jeremy says, I was expecting Nick Nemeth to cash in tonight. Oh, so he has the money in the bank or whatever their contract is. I don't keep track of it, so I don't know who has what contract or stipulation. But yeah, I was expecting him to be on the show, especially considering the fact that he just signed with TNA and he's a marquee name. Yeah, I don't know why he wasn't on the show, but I would have had him on it. City by the Bay sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you for that. I appreciate it, City by the Bay. Powerhouse Hobbs, excellent signing. Your thoughts? 100%. Although nothing's official, but I was surprised by the news because nothing really came out until last week that WWE was even interested in Hobbs, but I'm not surprised they're interested in him. I think that AEW missed the boat on him. Remember a year ago, go back and watch my Maximum Carnage recap from a year ago. I said Hobbs should have beaten Jon Moxley and ended the Death Riders back then. They could have made Hobbs the top guy, made him the man, and they didn't do it. So I see a lot in Hobbs. I think he has potential, but it's going to be tough. You got Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed, you got Jacob Fatu, Oba Femi, all these big muscular guys. It's going to be tough for Hobbs to stand out, but I'm wishing him the best, and I think it's the right move. We'll talk about it. If he shows up in WWE, we'll definitely discuss it and talk about the possibilities with him. But thank you for that, City by the Bay. I give the show 3 out of 10. Not good. And Kazarian, Santana, they were the one saving grace, but overall the show was pretty rough to watch. Sorry to the TNA fans out there. They are a very distant number 3, and I don't think it'll ever change. I was really hoping they would knock it out of the park, and they didn't. So it's a bummer. Life goes on. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate the viewership and support. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest wrestling news and rumors. Say yes to No DQ, and I will see you all next time.